I am sitting here this morning with one of the happiest guys in the Western region, or possibly in the state of Washington, or maybe even in his hometown. He's so excited. So, Brian White, what are you so excited about this morning?
Well, very big news for Brian out of Texas. I got an email this morning from the team with Zach and Jesse at Now You Know, and they're going to be having me as a panelist at the Austin Cybertruck After Party, the big event hosted by the awesome Owners Club of Austin. It's one of the biggest clubs out there. It's one of the most active clubs out there. It has got just the best people working, coordinating. And these teams are putting in so much of their own time, their own money, their own energy to boost Tesla. So folks at home can enjoy it as much as we do. And so, I'm going to be one of the panelists with Zach and Jesse, who I've never met in person, by the way. They're among the few.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty impressive grab there, Mr. White. I mean, did you know
Yeah,
that
they're very lucky.
Did you even know that they knew who you were?
They're actual news hounds, so it'd be impossible for them to not know.
Oh, yeah.
It's some of the analysts who, like if a Jordan Giesecke type didn't know who I was, that wouldn't surprise me. But I mean, in Jordan's case, obviously, he met him a bunch of times. But like some of the Wall Street guys, no idea. I've met Ross Gerber. I want to say 2 or 3 times, and every time he's like, "Oh, good to meet you" for the first time. For we have never once yet met, and it's because Ross is in the financial side, and I'm doing a broader analysis that has worked well for my viewers.
Yes. All right. Well, speaking of your viewers, if you aren't following Brian White at My Tesla Weekend, why not? And now that he is going to be on a panel hosted by Zach and Jesse, I would think that would convince you, if you weren't already convinced, that he is well worth following. So, and of course, you've watched him here a couple of times a week, and you know that he is filled with incredible knowledge and information. And speaking of all that incredible knowledge and and thank you, by the way, for the exclusive about the fact that you're going to be on the panel down there in Austin. And I understand you're still in the hunt. However, even though you get this accolade, you're still in the hunt for a +1 in case anybody out there might have one.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, everybody, in advance.
Okay, all right. Listen, the other day I put up 12 things that we know for a fact will happen between now and the earnings report in January. We know that these events are going to happen. We don't know the numbers that'll be associated with them. We just know that something will happen. And so I thought I'd throw these at you because, sometimes my crowd might think that they're getting only half the story, and they might like some wisdom from somebody who sees it differently.
I'm ready.
All right. Okay, let's go. So number 1, we will find out what the number shipped in the Q4 will be on the 2nd of December. And I'm thinking it'll be around 500,000 for a total
January.
Did I say January? What did I say?
No, you said December.
I'm sorry, January 2nd. And I'm figuring it'll be around 500,000, give or take. And for a total of 1.8 million plus. And you say?
And I say, you also said 18% margin. And I think 18% might be a tad high. So last year we saw these big. So first of all, 500,000 sounds about right to me. This is the trajectory. Now we may still have some lingering effects from the downtime for retooling the Model 3, but we may also see higher numbers because it was retooled.
Yeah, right.
The 18% margin, one thing to remember is if you look back at the margins over the last 2 years, you saw some really good fat numbers. And one of the hidden aspects of that was the cars coming back off lease were sold at the price of almost a new car. Those cars had like a 30, 40, 50% margin because they'd already been sold once at a price that was agreeable. And when they came back, Elon had wanted them for the robotaxi fleet. Don't know if you've heard, it's been delayed. So they went ahead and sold them at prices that were breathtaking to the bottom line. And those deals are those deals are disappearing. The cars that are coming off lease from 3 years ago do not have the same kind of premium that they did a
Right.
year or two ago.
Right.
So 18% might be a little on the optimistic side. I think 15 to 16 is a lot more doable. But those are still industry leading, not the highest, but among the highest. And the only large scale producer that was higher was Mercedes. And we know that they just did price cuts across the board, every model, apart from the super limited edition, like
Right.
the CLK 600 or whatever. Those ones did not get the price reduction, but only 2 out of 25 models didn't.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. So but we do have, of course, no price decreases this quarter so far. And we've had a few price increases this quarter so far. We would be expecting some reductions in overall costs, whether that's materials, whether that's processes and procedures, whether that's improvements in ramps. But you're still a little cautious about my 18% number.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. Right. All right. Next would be energy profits. We were bumping up against 500 million last quarter. Do you think we will cross the threshold to 500 plus million in this quarter?
So I don't see why not. The cost of goods is still falling. The price cuts, there have been price cuts to mega packs, but we haven't seen any price cuts this quarter. The only question is production still increasing? And I don't see why it wouldn't be. The backlog is sufficiently long. The only reason you don't cross 500 million in profits on it is because of goods in transit, because these do take a little bit longer to cash out than a car, because it doesn't have to just get there. In a lot of cases, it has to be turned on first. Though I imagine those kinds of holdbacks are less common now that they're a proven brand in that segment. So more than 500 million this quarter in profit on Megapack, very likely.
All righty. So the next would be we will get the early production numbers of Cybertruck. These could be coming multiple times. So we might get something on January 2nd. We might get something before January 2nd. We will certainly get something at the earnings report, I'm assuming. I'm saying I'm going to be optimistic here. I have nothing to base this on, that they will be better than most people think.
Is that sufficiently vague? Yes. It depends who you ask. There are people who are still saying it's going to be 10,000 this year. And I say that's crazy talk. I think the over-under is at 1,000. It is a rumor I saw circulated that I don't know if I believe, is that there will be 10 delivered at the event.
Yes.
But there could be 0 delivered at the event and it would still count in my book. And it could be 10 to only employees and it would still count. But the big thing is these are showing up everywhere. They're on trucks moving in every direction, which means they're going to be either delivering them or putting them in showrooms. And either way, I'm excited because I can either see them on the road or I can see them at a scheduled time at my leisure.
We do have reports this morning that they are showing up in showrooms. So
San Diego, San Diego and San Francisco are the ones I've heard.
Okay, all right. So then we should by the earnings report, we should have had some early reviews of Cybertruck, and I'm expecting them to be outstanding, even crazy good.
Yeah, I agree. The only we know it's going to be powerful. We know it's going to be fast. We know it's going to be exciting. We know it's going to turn better than the prototype because it has rear wheel steer. The only question marks outstanding, the 2 question marks outstanding are range and price. Price to me is a non-issue because it will change over time.
Yes, right.
But range is still a question. And I think it'll be able to outperform any of the other trucks based on battery size for range because it has better aero and it has better tech.
Yeah, and I think the other 2 that people are going to be looking for is the load and the towing capacity.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think those would be likely to move the stock because of the small percentage of early adopters who will actually be towing.
Yeah, but long term, that's going to be, I think it's going to be
long term, sure, but
yeah, it'll be a It'll be a talking point. It'll be something that the press can put. It can only tow this much.
They love those headlines.
They do love those headlines. Yes,
Cybertruck disappoints.
So we'll also
disappoint.
we should be getting, if not before, by January 2nd, we'll know some of the early sales numbers on the Model 3 Plus. Have we seen any evidence yet that you've seen in terms of whether the deliveries are expanding out at all? I know we've just saw some reports this morning that they're loading thousands more onto ships to go to Europe out of China. What else might we know? Are we just have to wait until January 2nd to really know how well these are doing?
It's really tough when it comes to tracking market by market because the numbers are in a million different places. What we do know is that they're in showrooms throughout Asia and Europe, which means, and they wouldn't put them in showrooms unless they thought they had the capacity to fill orders for them. So that tells me that the ramp is going well and that they are having no trouble getting them into customers' hands. What we haven't seen as much is spottings in the wild. And that's in part because the enthusiasm isn't the same. If you look, I found a refresh Model 3. Right. Nobody cares. That's last month's news, buddy. I've got 9 pictures of a Cybertruck to post.
Right. We should also at the meeting, which we don't know yet if it's the 17th or the 24th. So of January, at that earnings meeting, we should get the guidance for vehicle sales in 2024. I think this is going to be a big one in terms of moving the market. I'm throwing out that Tesla is going to say 2.2 million. What do you think they will say? What do you think they will do?
I think they'll say 2.1 at most. And I think they'll beat it by 50 units. I don't know. You know how they do it. So the 50% compound annual growth rate, we're still on that track, going back all the way to the beginning, really.
Right.
But in order to hit 50% in 2024, and this is something we were chatting about on X this morning, not you and I, but in response to a post by Holmars, Omar says they're not going to hit 50% in 2024. And people, of course, pinged me to say, really? And I said, yeah, really, because Cybertruck is only likely to make up optimistically another 90 to 100,000 units. That doesn't get you your extra 900,000, even your 600,000. So the only thing that would really kick it off is if interest rates came down precipitously and made the Models 3 and Y surprisingly more affordable than they are today. That could get us a big chunk of the way. 50% won't happen, but anything past 2.1 is still unlikely until we get the Cybertruck fully ramped and the compact model out, which of course requires a factory.
So we have to take into consideration a potentially strong business year. In other words, the economy doing well next year, the aging of the U.S. fleet. Let's see, what else might we take into consideration? Oh, opening new markets like Chile. I know it's not a big market, but Chile is opening up South America. We've got other markets that might be opened this year. So I think it was Jeff Lutz the other day that he's even saying now he tends to be on the optimistic side, but I think he came in at about 2.35 on his expectations for next year.
The big market opening that I'm looking for is India, where they may be already in the process of putting together, at least planning for, a knockdown or semi-knockdown assembly plant where they take mostly finished cars from Germany and sell them as if they were domestically produced in India. That's a good opportunity for India to let Tesla in the door without charging 100% import duties, which is typical for a finished automobile. Right. These would probably be at 130% because of the price tag. And it would be, you would think that the knockdowns would come from China because they've got better established capacity, but India and China's trade relationship and just relationship in general is only kept reasonable by the fact that they're separated by the world's largest mountain range. So they're a bit impassable. The so that would be a place to look for surprise growth, because Berlin could absolutely ramp production, especially if we're talking about knockdowns and semi knockdowns, mostly complete cars going in for final assembly. So that could be a real opportunity right there.
Okay, all right. And then would have whether any price cuts or price increases during the end of 23 and going into 2024. So by that date, I mean, this is one that Gary Black follows so carefully, but the fact, if we get to the meeting, the earnings report meeting, and we haven't had any price decreases, price cuts, but we've had maybe some additional price increases, this would be more of that indication for the street investors that margins might be safe now.
I agree with all that. What could cause the price to go up? Well, if we're talking Model Y, the answer is the India factory could do it. If in December we know that January they're starting production and sales of Model Ys in India, that will constrain output at Berlin that can actually be sold in Europe. So if we saw a Model Y increase of 500 euros, 1,000 euros, that would be something that they would do intentionally to cool demand a little bit there, so that they've got enough capacity to send somewhere else. So what makes the prices go up? A small imbalance in supply and demand. And that could, I think it'd be not surprising at all to see one more price hike this year.
I don't have it on this list. I might have it on a different list that you and I are going to go over for tomorrow's show. But, I'm just going to add it right now. What about the potential of a big impact from advertising?
Big impact? I don't know that big impacts are possible. But again, 1 or 2%, even a 1% shift would be enough to create a ripple that would increase pricing in some markets. So it's tough to say.
Yeah, but we could actually see, in other words, if advertising is all that Gary Black thinks it is. No, by the way, I agree. I'm an advertising guy my whole life. I've been marketing since I was like 12. But if the YouTube ads or the pay-per-click ads, as they start to do their analysis, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be using AI to analyze their YouTube results and their pay-per-click results, they might be able to really ramp those babies up and get some extremely good targeting of these ads that they're starting to run.
Yeah. And we've seen within the last week their first actual 30-second spot. And
two of them. Two. Yeah.
Oh, to me, they look like nothing, but they're not for me. For you and I, we look at them and go, yep, that's what a TV ad's supposed to look like. But here's the benefit of advertising. Yesterday, we were talking with a friend of ours who works at the store here. And we said, oh, yeah, you got to come over soon. She said, oh, how's next week? I said, next week I'm out of town. I'm going to be in Texas. And she said, what do you do again? No joke. And no joke. And I said, well, the big Cybertruck event is coming. She goes, oh, do you know about? No. I showed her a picture. She's like, wow, never seen that. You've never. Wow.
She and the Rock are both under the same rock.
Dwayne, okay. What are you doing, my friend?
I know. All right. So then also by the no later than that meeting of the earnings report, we should get an update on the production of 4680s and a guidance to the full ramp as to whether that might happen as planned by the end of the first half of 2024. Do you think we'll hear before that? Do you think we'll hear then? Do you think we're on track? What do you think?
I don't think we're on track, because I think if we were on track, they would tell us. Or it could be that we're just so early in it that they don't want to say. I don't think they're going to be the most forthcoming on guidance for the 4680, because that would be a whole new thing for them to do that. And they've never done it yet. And it's been years. So I don't think we're going to be hearing a whole lot about that.
What about when we get the next 10 million or whatever?
I just don't know. I think they would be hesitant because then it makes it very easy to chart the progress. And I
Yes.
think that would be, unless the number is exceptional, something they don't want to do. The numbers we saw from Giga Nevada were often published by Panasonic rather than Tesla.
Correct.
So I don't know if they even want to talk about the batteries.
All right. Well, and it wouldn't probably move the stock that much, although I think if they ever got ahead of it, the stock should be impressed, but we'll see. All right. And then margins increasing on the energy storage division. So we had 25% at the last earnings. Do you think it will be even higher at this earnings call?
I think the way to know if it's going to be higher is if they cut the prices again right before the end of the year. So they don't want to be seen as gouging these grid
Utilities?
scale customers. Yeah. Utilities they've got an image to maintain as well. And even though they're saving money, it's important that everyone save pennies together. So if we see another price cut, that would tell me that we could bump over 25, but I think they want to target 20-25% margins, even if it means cutting price while the backlog is still quite long. Yeah.
And then finally, I know I said this list is things that will happen, but I have as my number 12, my last one, that V12 is released. And Elon said about 2 weeks.
Well, I appreciate your sense of humor and your optimism. V12, I don't think so. It may be released. It may not be released. I was hoping to see it released before the Cybertruck event, or at least in concert with it. It would make sense to have the new hardware for trucks with the new V12 on it. But I don't know if we don't know if it's ready. And I think testing on it is more difficult because it is a black box and we do not know what's going on inside the box. So I think it'd be tricky to figure it out in that way. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that will happen this year. And if it does, I'm not sure what impact it will have. Because with a lot of the releases we've seen, it's one step forward, two steps back, or there's always some steps back. I'll tell you that much. But I think it's certainly something people are watching. I'm watching it. We'll see what happens.
Well, all right. That's the 12. And once again, congratulations, Brian, for your inclusion on the panel down there in Austin with Zach and Jesse. And hopefully somebody out there in the listening land of this channel might still have a +1 or know somebody that has a +1 that they can send your way. And we will meet again and we will discuss the 15 things that might happen between now and the actual earnings call in January. All of this, of course, I bring up because I believe the stock will hit all-time high January 30th after the earnings call.
Sounds good to me, man.
Okay, then. Brian, thanks for being on board as usual, and looking forward to next time. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.